Hey, you guys want to see something fun? I'm Senix, and this is ArtCraft. In this episode, we're going to be making stereoscopic art, which roughly translates into solid sight. But more practically, the word stereo just means you have two or more sources for something. So when it comes to stereo surround sound or just stereo sound, that means you have two or more speakers, each giving out a different source. So when it comes to visual stuff, that just means that your left eye and your right eye are seeing something different. And by using two or more sources, we get a full solid 3D understanding of what we're looking at. Because our brain is really magical like that, and it's good at putting together different images. So there's a couple interesting ways we can do this on a computer or on a screen like this. And the first is by making a wobble GIF, and that just means you're taking the left and right image and swapping them back and forth. And it's not really that exciting. But the second, more exciting way that I can show this stuff off to you is by using a 3DS. So I'm sorry if anyone here doesn't have a 3DS, but maybe you can go steal one from your little brother or find a way to use one for this video. But anyway, we're going to be using MPO file format to share stereoscopic art to our 3DS. And we're going to be showing them to you by making them into QR codes and putting them up in the video. And then if you have your 3DS, you can go to the home menu, hit L and R at the same time, click that little icon that looks like a checkerboard on your bottom screen, and just scan the QR code, and the image should pop up in the web browser, and it will be in 3D, hopefully. Okay, so I think that's about it. Let's get underway with explaining just how it works. And we'll go a little bit more into depth on just kind of stereoscopic imagery overall. So let's pretend that this is you, or the viewer, and you have two eyes, and this is how you see the world. So you have your green eye, which is your right eye, and your blue eye, which is your left eye. And they just go off into the distance like that in kind of conical shapes. And that's how you see things. And that little area you see, that red line where basically your left and right eye are both seeing the exact same thing, I'm just going to call that maybe your focus area. But for the purposes of this video, that's going to be your screen depth. So think of it like that's where the screen is. That's basically where 2D images are on your screen. But then if we look at something, say, in front of that, you can see I quickly made a little image to represent like a photography camera style take on what both the left and right eye is seeing. And you can see here I put a ball kind of in front of our nose. And if you look at it from the left eye, just kind of filling it out, just focusing on those left lines so you can see the cone of vision. You can see the ball is kind of on the right side of that cone. And if you look from the right eye, the ball is kind of on the left side. And if you look at that focal screen depth area, the flat zone, as I like to call it, you can see that things are exactly the same. And then I'm just going to draw these trees way out in the background, out on the ends of our distance of where our cone is going off. And you can see that since our cones of vision actually kind of switch directions once you pass that flat screen zone, that you actually have different visions on the left and right side as well. So everything beyond that flat zone shifts to the left for your left eye or to the right for your right eye, and everything in front of that cone of vision, in front of that flat zone in the cone of vision, basically shifts the opposite way. So things that are closer are going to shift to the right or the left on the opposite eyes. Wow, that was really confusing, wasn't it? Sorry. Hopefully the pictures did a lot better job at explaining it than I did, because I think the pictures kind of summed it up, and hopefully it made sense. So now what I'm doing is I'm just rendering a quick little painting based exactly on what our example was. So I had the trees in the background. That's what I'm doing first. You can see I'm just really quickly painting some stuff in Painter here. I did a nice blue sky background with some clouds because that's always nice and soothing to render some clouds. And then I just drew our little tree line. So the other thing to note is I am doing these all on separate layers, so they'll be easy to move. And here is our screen depth, which you also saw in the example with our little red box. And finally, the last thing we're going to do is that blue ball that we had. So this is kind of a fancy rendered interpretation of that little example I set up. And I'm kind of trying to make my ball look nice and pretty and 3D by giving it some lighting effects. And that looks pretty good. So basically, once I've set this up, I'm just going to save it. And then I think I will take it into Photoshop. I was just softening up the background a little bit to create a little more added artificial depth. But now we're going to create some fancier artificial depth by formatting them for our 3ds viewing. So you can see here, I scaled everything down to a canvas that is 400 by 240. And that is the resolution of the Nintendo 3DS's 3D screen. So now I'm just scaling everything down and I'm rounding out that ball a little bit with the Liquify tool just to make it extra round. So it was kind of lopsided before since I just drew it freehand. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy each of those layers. Since they're on separate layers, I'm going to copy each one and I'm going to move them around a bit. So if you think about how I did it with that quick little example, I'm basically recreating that mock-up we did, and I'm moving things that are behind the screen to the left if they're on the left eye, or to the right if they're on the right eye, and I'm moving things that are in front of our screen to the right if they're on our left eye, and to the left if they're on our right eye. And that's, once again, a mouthful. And, of course, the screen, the flat red part that you saw, that doesn't change at all. So that will be the same on both eye views. Oh, God, this is really complicated to talk about. But you can see here I've used the Liquify tool just a little bit because it's so wonderful and handy to move the reflection on the ball just a little bit. I'm moving the lighting so it actually feels like you're viewing one side of it with your right eye more than you are, say, viewing the other side of it with your left eye. So it gives it that slight movement. So each of your eyes is viewing it from that angle, and you're seeing a little bit more of the side that you wouldn't normally see with the other eye. So now I'm just kind of testing it out, wobbling it back and forth. And this is basically how you would make a wobble GIF, is just save that. But anyway, we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to go into a program called Stereo Photo Maker. And don't worry, I will post a link to that program in the description below, so be sure to check it out. But it lets you quickly just pull in a left and right image. I saved a left one and a right one. And it lets you transform them into the MPO file format so we can view it on our 3DS. So, woo, that's about it. And hopefully it will work out. And so anyway, you're going to have to host it somewhere. I just used pomf.se to host my images real fast for this video. But then you're going to want to turn them into a QR code. And I'm sorry, I was kind of rushing through that, but it was on qrstuff.com. It's really a fast way to turn any link into a QR code. But anyway, here's the final result, and you can pause the video and you should be able to scan it with your 3DS, and hopefully you will see an awesome 3D image of what I just drew. So there's one other little thing I wanted to try. Sometimes making things look like they're popping out in front of the screen can kind of make your eyes a little bit wobbly. Your brain has trouble processing it, and it looks a little fuzzy on the 3DS. So we're also going to try just doing something in 3D, but putting the ball back behind the red screen there, that all too important flat zone. So you can see here, I even made the ball smaller and I put it behind there. So now it goes to the left on the left eye and to the right on the right eye. And here is the QR code for that. So once again, you can pause it if you want and scan it real fast. And hopefully you see that it is behind the screen now and it still looks awesome and 3D. So for the next stereoscopic experiment, I'm going to be using one of those graffiti style art pieces I did in a previous video and turning it into a 3D image. So for this one, I'm going to try to be a little more technical, and I'm going to move the background a little bit for our left and right images, and I'm going to have a vanishing point be the same in the background on each of those left and right images, but since the foreground's different, the vanishing point lines are going to be slightly different in each of our images. So that way it will create a hopefully more interesting and realistic looking 3D image. Since the vanishing point is the same, yet the foreground object will be kind of different. So it makes sense, I think, but I'm a little kind of rough with it. I don't take my time to make sure all of these 3D shapes are the same distance and everything. So I just kind of eyeballed it real fast and didn't spend a lot of time cleaning it up. But I'm sure if you use this technique, you could probably really refine it and make something blocky look extra awesome and 3D. So you can see here, I'm trying to refine it a little bit. I'm wobbling back and forth between the two to make it look like that block actually doesn't have any glaring imperfections. But even if it does, you'll find that when you view them, like say on a 3DS with one eye viewing each image at the same time, your brain actually doesn't notice those little minor flaws, and it will actually put it together anyway to form a simple 3D image. So one other thing I wanted to try was to use that flat zone that I talked about and put some black bars up. And this will create a silly little illusion that will create a lot of pop on our three-dimensional object. So here you can see the QR code now, and I think you'll like this one if you scan it in with your 3DS. It has a nice 3D feel, like it's popping right off the screen. So the last thing I want to do is just create some original art for this video. So I just quickly made a generic looking female character, just real fast. I didn't spend a whole lot of time making this. And in fact, if I was smarter, I would have done a character which had a lot more 3D depth potential to it, because I drew such a flat piece of art. I should have made something with stuff coming forward and backward. But nonetheless, this will give you a good example of how you can make your art extra 3D and fun. So I'm just doing the painting process here. You can see just a simple skin tone. I made a quick little sketch and then set it to a soft multiply and then just started painting right underneath it. And instead of using multiple painting layers, I just kind of scrapped that whole line art layer and just painted directly on this layer. You can see some of the basic painting stuff still paying off, using a lot of red in the cheeks and nose area, and less red once you get to the chin and the forehead. And that's just kind of colors of the face stuff. But I thought I'd throw in a nice simple little background. I don't know, I just threw in some pink flowers because you need some background. If you just have a flat background, you're not going to see any of that depth. So now we have our finished art, and I'm going to switch over to Photoshop and once again just abuse the hell out of that Liquify tool. I can just duplicate the layer this female character is on, and I can just completely warp it in a way that makes it look like she's turning to the side ever so slightly. So basically I'm shortening the areas that are moving away from the camera or behind the camera, and I'm making the one side of her face, which you'll see more of, just kind of slightly wider and the other side thinner. And by doing just simple Liquify moving things, we can actually create a nice little 3D effect. And you can see wobbling it around has a nice little effect. And I think overall, this was a nice, simple way to create a 3D piece of art. So I think I will experiment with it a lot more in the future, but here is that final QR code for this last image. And I hope it was fun looking at these. I hope you have a 3DS. I'm sorry, I know most people don't. Just to give you some idea of the wobble GIFs, because I didn't really show them off. Here's a quick wobble GIF, and you can see, if you kind of just look at it, it feels like you're looking at a 3D model or something. Although mine's not that good because I kind of rushed it and shrunk it down way too much for my 3DS. But anyway, enjoy the wobbles, and thank you for watching. Hopefully it was fun. And once again, if you had a 3DS, oh, it's so much better. But I guess that's about it.